Hope everyone's having a fantastic morning. I'm going to check our channels, see if this is up and going. It should be. So happy Thursday morning to everyone. Welcome to the Agent Resource Podcast. We are live for the first time in a while, right?
Yeah.
So that's completely on me. But I'm glad that we are live.
Nope.
I like that energy and I like the conversation.
Nobody's blaming you, Jaime. Nobody's blaming you.
But we know that it was me. I dig it. I dig it. Well, let's jump right into it, Joseph. So, welcome to the Agent Resource Podcast. Really appreciate you coming and hanging out with us. Today, we're talking about Facebook groups. We saw the comments, we saw the DMs. You want to learn how to leverage Facebook groups for your real estate business, and you should. That is a gold mine that is still untapped to its fullest potential. There are some miners out there, but you can still get your shovel, you can still get your pickaxe and get to work. So with that being said, first, let's back up for a quick second and check out our co-host, Joseph Gonzalez. What is up in Singapore?
What's going on, Jaime? Not much. 9:45 p.m. here in Singapore. The family is winding down. Actually, they're probably all asleep at this point. And life is good, man. Not a lot of complaints here. How are things in your side of the world? Morning time.
It's good, dude. It's good. You can tell the drastic difference where when the roles were reversed, I was really dragging. So the fact that you always have so much energy is just wild to me. So
I should.
that.
I'll tell you the secret. The secret is showering before the call.
Mm-hmm.
That's the secret. Is on a late
shower.
night. What's that?
Cold shower or warm shower?
Both. I do the same thing as I do whenever I work out. A lot of people say take a cold shower to ease the inflammation in your body, right? So what I do is I actually take a warm shower in the evening whenever I haven't worked out, and then I'll gradually make it a cold shower, and then that way the inflammation will cool down at the end, but also capillaries and all that stuff, whatever they say, the Hoff theory or whatever it is. But yeah, it just wakes me up and I'm like, okay, I'm going to have this call, do a little bit of work, maybe record a video after this, and knock it out.
Damn. So pay attention, folks, because this is a D1 athlete. D1 athlete, you were on the defensive side, right? You were on.
Went in as a running back and transitioned to a safety. Yeah.
Dang. Safety is that's no joke. No position with safety. It's you're one of the most exposed players out there, if not the most exposed.
There's a reason I had a lot of concussions. We'll just say that. And I forget a lot of stuff.
That's fair. That's fair. So do you know that we're recording the Agent Resource Podcast, Joseph?
I do kind of recall that we are doing that, and it is Thursday for both of us. I had to look at my watch for that one.
Boom. Boom. I love it. Well, let's get going. Facebook groups. Facebook groups is something that is, again, it's widely untapped, if you will. So there's different elements of getting started with Facebook groups, but basically here's the entire concept. You are able to tap into an audience that is not already part of your sphere. So you as a real estate agent, whether you got your license as a baby or as your second career, third career, or final career, you had a Facebook. Chances are 2007 is really when it started popping off to its, what we see today. So chances are you have maybe 50 friends, 200 friends, 3,000 friends, 5,000 friends, and have maxed out your friend potential. With Facebook, you have your sphere, right? So you have your friends, past coworkers or current coworkers, acquaintances, people from high school, people from college, and everything else. So that's your sphere. But with Facebook groups, you have the ability to tap into a community that doesn't know who the heck you are, whether that's in real estate, whether that's in sewing classes, whether that's in cycling, whatever. You have the ability to leverage Facebook groups to tap into somebody else's network. And that's really what you, as a real estate agent, want to tap into. Is that a fair synopsis, Joseph?
No, I think, I believe that's very good, right? So a lot of people, whenever you talk about Facebook groups, they kind of shy away from it because they're afraid of what people are going to think if they start posting stuff inside Facebook groups, which, we're going to get into the tactics of it a little bit, but yeah, essentially think of it as a small city that you're able to farm, right? Or think of it as a large neighborhood that you're able to farm. And if you start thinking about it that way, especially as a real estate professional, you'll start thinking about a Facebook group so much different than you normally would. Because now you're thinking everybody that comments, likes, shares, does whatever on your posts or any other posts or asks questions about real estate as people in your neighborhood or a place that you're farming versus just like this random space on the internet, which, a lot of people who are not big fans of using Facebook for quote unquote farming. Essentially, that's what it is. It's a large farm, especially groups, or large farms of humans, which also sounds quite strange to even say. But yeah, it's a large farm of potential business. And if you start thinking about it that way, you will start seeing, as Hyman stated earlier, that it is truly a gold mine if you use it the right way.
100%. And speaking of gold mine, you've been able to leverage groups far more effective than I've seen any marketer do that. And you've been able to build your business. I would say that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that's your primary driver, where you really pulled out business out of the communities in an ethical way, in a way that people aren't running you out of groups, in a way that people actually want to be part of your community, where I see people actually become your friends and comment. They go up to bat for you. They defend you, not that you need defending, but you're able to build a community within a community, and you've been able to do that effectively. So how long has that been going on? Talk to us a little bit about that before we go to the next one, because I want people to appreciate that this isn't your first rodeo. And, I would consider myself this my second, third rodeo, because I'm not as effective as and I'm okay with admitting that.
Yeah. So yeah, right. Each of us, especially as marketers and business owners, you have different angles that you take, right? So my angle has always been, not always been, but I would say probably the last 3.5 years has been Facebook groups. And primarily a specific Facebook group. I don't know if I'll mention it here. You can mention it if you want to, but yeah, I think the reason that a lot of people will go to bat for me in these groups, and the reason Jaime brought that up, is because you'll have other people, other marketers, other real estate agents who have no idea who you are. And whenever you're actually trying to help people for free, they will say things about you negatively and have no idea who you are. They've never met you before. They just see that you're like offering free help, and they're like, oh, this must be a scam. And then I have people come to bat for me because I have helped people for so long, giving free information, free advice. And so I think that kind of leads into this next point I want to make is, as Jaime said, I've leveraged these Facebook groups to make a very good living, and I'm very thankful for it. And keep in mind, the reason I made a good living is because I made other people a very good living as well by helping them. So I want to be very clear on that. It took a lot of work, but the thing that you have to consider is the whole point is helping people. And so whenever you go into these groups and you want to start leveraging these groups to build your own business and quote unquote farming, then the first thing that you should look to do is provide helpful advice, right? First time home buyers, here's some tips to, make sure that you're not getting screwed out of money. First time home buyers, here's some tips to, if you decide to go talk to a builder on your own, here's some things to have a conversation about. And it's not the same generic thing that you see as realtors post all the time, which is, hey, here are some tips, by the way, work with me, right? It's like, no, here's some free information. Here's as Gary Vee says, right? It's like jab, 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 and then hook, right? Or jab, 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 uppercut. And so it's the same theory here, or same concept here, is like, just keep helping people without telling people that you are a real estate agent. And eventually going to be like, man, you know so much damn information about real estate. You must be a real estate agent, right? And I want to work with you. And that's kind of the same thing that happened for me in these groups is, people would ask questions. And until to this day, Jaime probably will see this on some of the things that I do. Like when somebody asks a question, since I started creating a YouTube channel, which Jaime is, a master at YouTube, I use my organic strategy to say, hey, here's a video that could answer your question, or here's a video that could help you, right? So I looked at all the different questions that these real estate agents have. I created videos around them. And then whenever they have a question, guess what? Now I can send them to a YouTube video, and I also get a subscriber from it. So again, as we talked about, it's cross promotional, and I'm using groups to grow my YouTube channel now, right? So these groups can be leveraged massively to grow your business as a real estate agent if you're looking to really help people. And then from there, the money will follow.
I love it. I love it. No, so that's absolutely right. And everything that you mentioned, I can attest to. It's something that I I saw you and noticed you through the groups. It wasn't until last year, I believe. Wow, it's maybe it wasn't until last. Yeah, I think it was last year when we connected. On a
Yeah.
one-to-one level, but you'd already built up that reputation. So it's somebody that I feel comfortable reaching out to you from a not seeking anything from you, knowing that you wouldn't seek anything from me. It was just one of those organic things that ends up happening. Now, as far as the real estate lens, going into that, how you are actually generating business through real estate groups, or let me back up, how to leverage real estate leads through Facebook groups. Well, let's start talking about some of the groups that you can go into. There's buy, sell real estate groups. There's a ton of those, and they're local. They're Austin, Lubbock, San Antonio, Dallas, Fort Worth, El Paso. There's a ton of those groups. There are garage sale groups. There are, as mentioned, cycling groups. There's so many different communities that you can tap into. Now, some of these groups are going to be a little bit closer to a decision point. So what that means is if you're going into a group that is first-time home buyers, chances are a real estate agent or lender already created that. So just be careful on how you post. But that group, well, who's in there? Who's most likely to be in there? People are looking to buy their first home. But if you're going into other groups, such as a cycling group, well, it's a bit more long tail. So some people may be looking to buy. Some people may not be looking at all because they're in a cycling group and that's what they can expect. But you're able to provide value. It's a way, again, to tap into somebody else's network. That's why we started the entire podcast with that premise. You're tapping into another network, and it just so happens that you love cycling, and now you have access to 3,000 other people, where people get to know you, people get to like you, and at some point they're going to click over on your profile and see, what does Jaime even do? He's always talking about whatever. What does he do? Oh, he's a realtor. Okay, cool. Well, I don't have that need right now, but now I know, right? So it's all of these different pockets. We don't all have to really go in for the kill. Now we're going to give you a group that you can instantly get kills on, if you will. But I probably shouldn't say that because we're going to get demonetized. But
Yeah.
you just want to plant the whole scenario for Facebook groups, because there's long tail where you build communities such as Joseph. People have been following his stuff for years. And whenever the need comes up, whenever they have the budget to work with a Joseph, then they'll reach out. Not everyone's going to reach out to you immediately. So I just want you to be prepared, the different pockets that exist with Facebook groups, because you get to tap into somebody else's network. Now, some of it may be closer to a buying or selling transaction, but there's other groups that you can feel good in being a part of that community, and eventually you're going to extrapolate some business from.
No, I think that's fantastic, Jaime. Yeah, you do have to realize that there's levels to just about everything, right? It's the same thing with Facebook groups, and these different levels of groups. What you need to do, this is going into tactics at this point, is look at the group, and then you need to start asking qualifying questions, and not qualifying as qualifying people to buy or sell a house, qualifying to figure out what the group needs. And so here's a secret for those of you who are listening that are real estate agents who want to become super marketers. This is a super marketing technique right here. Ask a question that will give you content to create. And so an example is, first-time home buyers, what are some questions that you think that you want the answers to? What are some questions that you have no idea about, or what's something that you've been told that you think's a myth, right? Those of you who own a home in this group, what are some questions you have about selling your house, right? Let them go ahead and write the questions. here are the couple of things that are going to happen. One, you're going to get content that you can now, or get information and answers to create answers to those questions, meaning that you now have this list of content that you can go create and study and make more information, a deeper understanding that you can give them now. That's number one. Number two, you're going to find out who wants to buy a house and who wants to sell a house like immediately, because they're telling you, here are the questions that I have as a first-time home buyer. Here are the questions I have as a possible first-time seller or a homeowner. And so this is one of the secret like marketing strategies that I use now. And I didn't know I was going to be presenting it today, but you know, where this podcast is all about that is like, what can we give you that you can go utilize after this call, during the call if you want to, so you can see it happen. And as you're listening, actually watch the results roll in, right? And so for those of you that are listening, that's as simple as it gets. Ask a question and let them give you the opportunity to answer it in a more detailed fashion. Send them an inbox message. You know that they're looking to sell. You know that they're looking to buy. Create a video about what their question is. Send it to them, and bam, you are an authority figure in their life.
Think of how effective that just became. So let's unpack that, because some of you may have missed that. And if you missed that, you owe us a 5-star review on the Agent Resource podcast. So as punishment, and even not as punishment, even if you got the genius that was, please, a 5-star review is going to go a long way. But beyond that, what just happened? If you're posting in a group, well, one, you're being a creator, not a consumer. So you produce instead of consume. So you're that person that throws a party. Well, technically the person that created the group is throwing the party, but you get to say something at the party. Let's just say you get to speak at the party.
You get to be the MC.
There you go. You get to drop the fire rhymes, right? The fire stuff. Yeah. So you get to create, you get to produce. So you get to direct the conversation, right? So there's that aspect. Now, whenever somebody comments, if you're asking questions, as Joseph mentioned, not all of them are going to hit, but many of them, if you do them correctly, over time, they will. So you're going to start seeing, hey, if I ask this type of question, nobody answers. I've had a lot of bombs in my day. Man, I need to stop using these words. I've had a lot of bad, just things that don't work. We are not going to stay monetized. Bombs. All right. So there's a lot of things that just don't work, but you're going to find the posts that kill it every single time. I'll give you one right now. I mean, for those of you, this is more for the real estate agents. The one that kills it in every single group is, how many brokers have you been with in your career?
Magic.
That one just is very, very, gets a lot of engagement. I'm about to say
gets out of hand. It gets out of hand. Escalates quickly.
It escalates quickly. So finding different words or keywords or phrases, that's super important. But back to the unpacking of what was mentioned. Number one, you're a producer. Number two, you're directing the conversation of where you want in your group, getting engagement with the questions that you are receiving. You now have ideas for content, which is going to ultimately help you in your content creation. And the more and more people comment, just think about it from the algorithmic perspective, the more and more people see you, because the Facebook group, if it has 1,000 or if it has 100,000, not all 1,000 or 100,000 are going to see that post. That's not how it works. But the more engagement, the more likes, the more hearts, the more in angry phases and comments, and the more shares, that's how you start receiving a good amount of exposure for some people that will actually find something valuable that you have to stay either at that post or in the future. So there's just so many different benefits that comes from just one post. And wouldn't that take you a couple of minutes of just thinking about what to post, or taking one of Joseph's example? Where else are you going to go to post something and get access to, let's say 10 people, let's say 100 people, let's say 2,000 people? If we want to get really silly with it, where else are you going to go to get that type of exposure without having to pay for it?
Yeah. And by the way, and so to continue down this road of, okay, we've made this post, right? These people have started commenting. And so let's talk about the growth and then what the next step should be. So you're in these groups, you've made your post, people are commenting. Number one, you should like their comment, no matter what it is, if it's bad, ugly, whatever, and then you should respond appropriately, right? And so the reason you want to do that is because once you like and you respond, it adds into the engagement of the post, which then continues the trend of that post being shown to more people. And so that's another little secret thing that most people don't understand is, yes, engagement counts, but also your own engagement on that post counts towards more engagement, meaning, and that kind of makes sense, but it counts as engagement to boost the post more. And so I want you all to make sure that you're doing that, is whenever you go in and you do some of these things Jaime and I are talking about, this interaction creates more action, if you will. So out of interaction, more action comes. And so as you're going through this process and you're watching these things happen, the other thing that you have to understand is, how much would you have paid for each of those people to be a lead, right? And most people actually don't think about that whenever you're doing organic marketing. You're thinking, oh man, I've got all these free people. It's costing me my time. And yes, time is money, but time is not actually physical money coming out of your bank account. It's just money that you're not making, right? And so the same leads that you're going to get in these Facebook groups are probably going to be the same leads that you get from the other big box companies that I'm not going to mention right now. And you're going to get them for free through your own efforts. So I just want people to think about that. As Jaime said, you have 10 people, maybe 100 people, or 2,000 people, depending on what type of engagement and what type of post you create. Just think about each of those people that you're communicating with between $5 to $10 per person that you're actually getting to communicate with for free. And you start thinking about it that way, you'll start loving Facebook groups, because your ROI basically is through the roof. And that's one of our pitches whenever we talk to people is, you work with us, you decrease your spending and increase your ROI, because it's true, because we'll do organic marketing on top of the paid advertising that we also do for our clients, right? And it's just really smart to, if you don't do it, it's just not smart. If you do it, it's very smart, because you just increase your ROI tremendously.
Yeah. Let's give some folks that are on here live a quick shout out. We have Jeremiah says, hey, I'm Jeremiah. Awesome. Appreciate you. We have Abby Rangel. Saludos from Indiana. Saludos back. We have Bill Mays. Great creative talent. Thank you. And then Abby, yes, it's a great way to build your presence online. Plus you have the algorithms, like and reply. So echoing what you're mentioning, your follow-up engagement plays into the whole action. So Abby is dialed in this morning, Joseph.
Wonderful, Abby. Love it.
What is up? So no, I mean, that's, I don't think I can add really anything to that. That's just one very solid strategy that you can deploy. Now, we broke the podcast up into several segments, and one of them was the one that we just covered in playing somebody else's sandbox, which is going to somebody else's house. So in this example, this is you playing on somebody else's Facebook group, regardless of which one it happens to be in. You have the ability for free to create your own house. You can build your own house. It's called your Facebook group. Now you can make it about whatever you want as well. So now you are the person hosting the party. So you can dictate who gets in and who gets out. You get to be the bouncer. Now, you can make it about really anything. One of my agents, she started a group on first-time home buyers. Well, that group is growing. I'm not going to say exponentially, but every 5 members that she gets per day, well, that's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. More specific Facebook groups that other of my agents have been deploying was VA loans. VA loans are treated differently. So there's some nuances I get to share that they get to share within that group. So that helps out quite a bit. There's another agent that does a knockout program, NACA program, where she spearheaded that. And now she's got leads per day. She's built out a team. She's capped. She's really built a thriving business, so much so that she sold her house and now has an RV and traveling full time with her husband. And
boom.
So she really dialed that aspect from taking action. So we talk about taking action all the time. So it's something that whenever you create your own Facebook group, you have that ability of controlling the conversation. You can create whatever it is that you want to, whatever it is that you want to talk about. So giving you one very specific strategy outside of the three that I just gave you, you can do one all about Dallas, all about Arlington, all about X, Y, and Z. So make it about a community because it's a non-threatening way for people to join. I want to learn more about Arlington. I want to know another way of saying the same thing is, you're from Arlington when, you're from Fort Worth when. So giving you these different Facebook groups that you can instantly get a few people into your funnel and you just start conversations.
No, I like that. It's it's a lot like the things that we've talked about before when it comes to the secret strategies, right? This is a secret strategy to get people into these groups that are local. So then you have the opportunity to work on them for business, right? And so that's a very indirect way, which, I love, Jaime. We've always talked about, like, how do we identify who homeowners are? We ask them questions like, what would you do to upgrade your house right now? Right. What's one thing that your home is missing? These are secret strategies to find out who homeowners are in the community. And then you can add them to your database and send them messages, right? So I love it for creating groups. And then you can go and ask those questions in those groups. One group, let's talk about a direct way. So if I was still selling real estate in Austin, which, I very well might pick up a team here in Austin here pretty soon, what I would do, and this is if you're in any market, by the way, the lack of first-time home seller support is so disparaging right now. It's ridiculous. And so we have all of these things for first-time home buyers and all this stuff. And then we have all these agents complaining about not being able to get seller leads, right? And so if I were an agent, new or veteran agent, what I would tell you to do right now is create a group called First Time Home Sellers of whatever city. And then what I would then do is go into these other larger Facebook groups and say, hey, we just started a Facebook group for first time home sellers. We're interviewing home sellers that have sold for the first time and people who are thinking about selling their home. This group is to support those who are considering selling their house by seeing what others have gone through. And so now what you're doing is you're going through and you're interviewing people who have sold their home. Maybe they had a good experience. Maybe they had a crappy experience. Maybe they liked the realtor. Maybe they didn't like the realtor. Whatever the case is, what you're doing is you're building this massive database of homeowners in your market that have sold and that will probably sell again, which means they will probably buy again, right? So you're creating these double-ended deals and creating relationships with these folks that you would have never, ever, ever come across before. And so again, the lack of first-time home seller support is so bad that this is probably the most untapped market in real estate at this point in time, because everybody's so focused on first-time home buyers with all these credits and all these other things. Everybody forgets all these first-time home buyers are going to be first-time home sellers. So you got to be on the forefront of creating groups that are first-time home seller groups.
That is just so good. That is so good. We're talking about there's a need right now, as you identified it, and it's a fantastic thing to really go in there and take action, because who are you speaking to? The Holy Grail of real estate. We know the progression. You get into real estate, it sucks. You start working with buyers, any buyer, it doesn't matter. You take leases if you need to or have to. And then eventually you start building your referral base and everything else. And then you become a listing agent, God willing. That's what ends up happening. But now as you flip the script and are speaking to homeowners and providing value to them, they're the ones that have something to lose. So just think of it that way. I actually saw a comment on one of the Facebook groups that says greedy sellers. It's like, I don't think that there's such thing as a greedy seller. I don't know if there's a hot take, Joseph. I think that I would sell my house for whatever it is that somebody would pay me. If you're willing to pay me to sell my house, this is the largest financial asset that I own. Why in the hell would I give you a discount? If you have the money, buy it. If you don't, okay. But one of the comments that was made by an agent, I'm not going to mention the agent because I remember that agent's name, and also the group, which is one that we've talked about quite frequently in kind of the conversations that happened there. But this agent was super frustrated with her seller. So this seller hired an agent to sell their house. So you have that you of course have the fiduciary duty to your client, but you're over here just bashing them, greedy seller. Are you going to give the delta of what you deem greedy back to the agent in your commission? I thought that was extremely disrespectful. But before I go on, actually, no, jump in here because I'm about to go on, Joseph. I think that's gonna go off the rails very quickly. I think that your strategy is spot on, and it's something that you can get started with immediately, where you're speaking directly to the folks that you want to work with.
Yeah, let me go ahead and cut you off there before you before your blood pressure goes up.
This video has no chance of getting no chance.
No, I agree with you. So here's the deal. Like if you're in this to create business and do the things that we're talking about, then yeah, you shouldn't be complaining about your sellers trying to get more money, because at the end of the day, if they do get more money, guess who else gets more money? You do. So I don't understand. Like, even if it takes an extra month or 2 months, if you're a broke agent, part of the reason you're complaining or part of the reason you're broke is probably because you're complaining about your own clients, right? And you have other things that you need to be worrying about instead of complaining about your clients, and let your clients make their money, and then you make your money, right? So anyway, I digress there. I agree with you, Jaime, on that. There's no reason to complain if you're making more money, right? I mean, you can complain about what you want, folks. It's your business. But if your client wants to wait and take an offer that's $50,000 more, well, guess what? You just made 3% more, or you just made 3% of that as well, right? So don't complain about making an extra $1,500 or whatever that's going to be. So what I want to make sure that people understand with these groups is you have to find, we know that there's a lot of agents that are in these different groups. You have to find ways to capitalize. And if you can find ways to capitalize, like the strategy we've just told you about, you're going to be so far ahead of other agents. They're going to be like, man, how did, and my clients have said this for years. Their brokers will come to them and go, can you share the information on how you're getting this business? And I always tell my agents, don't do it. And it's not because I'm stingy or anything like that. It's because the broker is going to be the one who wins, and the other agents are going to take your business in your market. If your agent wants you to go in and share that information, you should be compensated for it. Or yeah, if your broker wants the information, you should be compensated for that information, or you should start getting referrals for the deals that those agents close off of the strategy that you're giving. And that's not being stingy. That's not being anything like that. That is getting paid for what knowledge that you have, and you're providing other people the opportunity to make money as well. So you should be compensated for your knowledge, right? And so those of you who are getting the information that you're getting right now, I am telling you for a fact, if you create these first-time home seller groups, I know, because we've been doing this for so long, that is something that's untapped, and you are going to be so far ahead of your peers in your specific real estate brokerage, and most likely a lot of the agents in your own market.
100%. 100%. So you're talking about a specific type of group. Folks, you have several groups already. So now would be a great time to remind you that the 5-star review is still on the table. So if you haven't done the 5-star review on Apple Podcast, that'd be a fantastic time to do this. We record our podcast on Thursdays at 8 a.m.-ish Central Time. So come and hang out. This is when we record them. Then we publish them on Apple Podcast and Spotify, Stitcher, iHeart, everywhere else at noon on Fridays. So every Friday, check us out at noon Central. We drop every single podcast out. So again, we record on Thursdays. So we'd love to connect with you. All of our information is listed down below where you happen to be listening to this. So if you want to be part of the conversation, which you certainly do, make sure that you come and hang out. Now, we promised the getting business today. We promised the getting business in a more instantaneous way. So what we've talked about, just a quick little recap, we've talked about how to operate, how to play nice within the groups, and also how to be seen, build your brand, all that fun stuff. But we talked about it from a group or a house that somebody owned. So we were invited. We also talked about building the house or you throwing the party. And those are strategies that I mentioned, that Joseph mentioned specifically on the seller, on the way to get sellers and all that fun stuff. So you now know how to create your own little party. But now let's talk about going back to operating on somebody else's party, but in a little bit more instantaneous way. There are a ton of referral groups out there. Doesn't matter if you're a single agent in the history of ever. Let's just say you're just an individual broker, which is fantastic. That's fine. Or you're part of a mega team. You're part of the largest real estate brokerages out there. It doesn't matter. You get to play in these referral groups. So you have the ability of getting referrals from all across the nation. So you have the ability of getting a referral from a New York agent that has a referral because one of their clients or one of their family members is moving to Dallas. Somebody from Los Angeles, hey, a family member is moving to Dallas. Who can help me out there? Somebody from Seattle, hey, somebody, doesn't matter. They can be all across the state. So these real estate agent referral groups are a fantastic way for you to generate business. So if you get into these groups, as many as you possibly can, within moderation, because you don't want to join a bunch of Facebook groups. That's a great way to get suspended. At once, join three to five every single day until you run out. Turn on all your notifications within these referral groups and watch them come and watch them start coming to Dallas, start coming to Lubbock. And of course, you can always do the same thing with your sphere of influence. We forget that. We love receiving, but we don't give out the good stuff. So remember that your sphere of influence is all across the country as well. Your college friends that now live in New York, your friends that now live in Montana. You have the ability of staying close to that relationship and then you monetizing it. And I mean, just this morning, it was awesome. You just got a check in the mail for another referral, $1,200 for picking up the phone and texting an agent that I knew was going to close a transaction. So those aren't bad.
Money in the bank, baby. Well, here's another tip that I'll give people. Oftentimes, a lot of agents won't go into these groups and utilize them because they're afraid they're going to get kicked out of the groups, which Jaime, you just kind of hit on a bit, right? Like you don't want to get kicked out of these groups for whatever reason. What I will tell you is this. If you really want to be effective in this and you don't want to be worried, like let's say there's a group that's called DFW, things for sale. I don't even know what the group would be called, but it has 70,000 or 100,000 people in it. And you find out who the admin is because you can go to the group and look up admins and moderators, find out who the admin is and say, hey, look, I'm creating a group for people that I want to support who are first-time home sellers. Would it be okay for me to post once a week to get people to come in and give them free advice? I'd like to pay you, $100 a month. Would you be okay with that? Right? Or you can start low at $50 a month. And now you have access to a 60 to 100,000 person group that you can then start farming. Just think about it this way. Like if you were sending out mailers, it's going to cost you more than $100 to send out, let's call it 2,000 mailers. I don't even know how much it costs. What is it, like 50 cents or $1 per EDM or something like that?
$1.
Yeah. So $1. So now you're sending out, we're talking about thousands of dollars that you're spending versus spending $100 to start farming a Facebook group. Right. And I am more than willing to pay a certain amount of money to get access to thousands and thousands of people who are going to make me maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars.
100%. So here it's, some of this, I shouldn't say that some of this, all of this requires, I wouldn't say a good amount of work, but a good amount of work. It does require a good amount of work. Now, once you get your system in, if you have some people that can help you, you can absolutely do this all day long. So it can be you, it can be your VA, it could be an assistant, it could be a family, friend, whatever, whoever, as long as you have clear directive on the strategy, whomever is behind that mouse and can follow that strategy, you're going to get people lined up for days. So there's an agent here locally, here in Dallas Fort Worth. She does about 100 sides. 80, what did she say? It was either 80 or 85%, but at this point it doesn't matter because it's 80 or 85% of those sides are referrals. So think about that. She's got 100. So she's got her little, she calls them the referral warriors, is what she references them as. So she's got friends that are not competing in her market. In fact, some of them actually are competing in her market, but she's okay with that. They actually tag her every time there's a referral in Dallas or even close to Dallas. I see her, poor car. I see her like 2 hours out of Dallas. Like she's going over to Salina. She's going over to Waco. She's all over the board because she absolutely is effective with what she does. She loves it clearly, but she's doing 80 to 85% of her business through referrals. And I see that. I see everybody tagging her, again, her referral warriors all day long. So she, at this point, she just comes in to start the conversation. People actually elevate her so she doesn't have to be the one that's bringing up her name any longer. So somebody else giving you that shout out, somebody else tagging you, that's the ultimate sign of approval, especially when you see it twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times from other agents.
Yeah, that's magic, man. And I bet Jaime, and I don't know who she is, but I'm guessing she probably started off with giving value for free first and helping other people. And then from there, people are like, hey, this person knows their stuff. And that's what it comes down to. As I said earlier, and as we both believe, it all comes down to helping people. And Jaime and I were talking about books before we got on. One of the statements or one of the quotes in the book is the more people you help, the more money you make, especially if you're in business. And so it's the same thing. It's like the more people you can help, the more value you can give to people for free, the more the money just follows you. And so I'm guessing that's probably what happened with her, is she was helping a lot of people for free, giving a lot of free advice, and just talking about real estate in the most helpful way possible. Easy for people to understand. And then all of a sudden she became this giant. Of course, again, with work, right? It takes work to help people. But then the money just follows. That's how it works.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm still not going to share her name, but I've given her some of my referrals. So she's a really good closer. So I like getting those checks as well. So it really does help out, even though it was really literally down the street, Joseph. Like I could have seen her car when she was showing out.
Hey, sometimes it's better to let somebody else do the work, man.
Hopefully she never listens to this. But either way, moving on. So remember, the Agent Resource Podcast, a 5-star review goes a long way. If you're here live, a like is also going to help as well. Let's see what's going on in the comment section. Joseph, thank you for speaking on that, because that's the raw truth sometimes. So this was a couple of minutes ago. Let's see. Wow, that's passion. All right, so she was. Sorry, I'm losing these comments. Yeah, Facebook jail is the worst. Fridays.
And there are many times.
Podcast, awesome. And then we have an LOL. So people are getting a kick out of my laziness. That's great. So we're nearing the top of the hour, not actual hour. So as we get ready for the dismount in Facebook groups, you already dropped such a dime in getting conversations started with sellers. But as we go into the dismount, a parting thought that I had about Facebook groups was the only Facebook ad, literally Facebook, the company, advertising, the only Facebook ad that I have personally seen, I may be wrong, but the only ad that I've personally seen on YouTube and other channels has been about Facebook groups. That's the only ad that I've seen. So how I interpret that is Why would they be running ads if it's already been used abundantly? So for my money, I think that's a community that can continue to be tapped into, and it can, if you do it strategically, you can be very effective and not go into the social media black hole of just, oh well, I just spent 2 hours and I didn't do anything. So if you go strategically with the strategies that we just brought up, you're going to get a lot of business. It's not an if, it's a matter of when, if you just stay persistent with it. So those are my parting thoughts there.
No, I love it. I agree with you, Jaime. Facebook has been pushing Facebook groups now for like the last year, 2 years, very, very heavily, especially if, they're spending money on it, that they're prioritizing it. Things that are happening, some updates that just happened for Facebook groups for those of you. I know this is supposed to be your parting thoughts, but I want to provide as much information as I can.
Yeah.
Things that have happened with Facebook groups, that they started opening them up so you can see who's in the groups, even if they're closed groups. If there are groups that you're considering joining, you can actually see the conversations that are happening before you even join the group now, which you used to not be able to do. They made that update last month, or I guess last month is the first now, which then tells me what is going to happen next, which you've not been able to do in the past, is you're going to be able to run ads very soon directly into Facebook groups. And so those of you who have been wondering when this was going to come, I have a feeling that the reason they promote something is not because they think it's going to make it more friendly. The reason they promote it is they're trying to figure out how to make more money off of it. Who do they make money off of? Advertisers. Who are advertisers? Real estate agents and other small business owners and large business owners. And so these Facebook groups, here's my other prediction. The more interaction you have with these groups, the more credit you're going to get through your Facebook ads that you're running. So your costs are probably going to be lower than anybody else's. So the faster you start creating these groups and the faster you start interacting with people in these groups, the more money you're going to make, one, and the less it's going to cost you.
100%, 100%. I'm glad you brought that up, because right now the ability to target Facebook groups exists, however, not specific ones. And that's, I made this video when it first came out, maybe it was last year. The number one comment in terms of getting thumbs down is, well, you can't run ads in specific Facebook groups. I didn't say that you could. I just said that you could launch it, and I showed how to actually launch an ad using that placement. But right now it's just in the abstract. You're not necessarily certain which groups. But I think what Joseph is alluding to is, at some point in the very near future, with these changes that are being made, you're going to be able to target specific groups. So that's going to be huge. But also something that we need to be cognizant of, if you're accustomed to speaking in a closed group, even just referencing back that listing agent, well, just be careful, because now your conversations can be seen. So I would hate for that homeowner to see how that listing agent is speaking about them. See how
100%.
So just be careful. People are watching. That just brought that to mind, Joseph.
Yeah. At the end of the day, look, use the Facebook groups for what they are. They're a tool. Be smart. Talk to them like you would talk to Mother Teresa, hopefully, or any other person that you respect that you would never say a bad thing about. And talk in the groups like that, and you'll be perfectly fine. Just don't bring in all the other fuss that you might have going on in your life, or your super duper great opinions. And I guarantee you'll be okay.
Wham, bam. Folks, thank you so much for hanging out at the Agent Resource Podcast. Hopefully you see the light with Facebook groups. If you have been using Facebook groups, hopefully you see more of the strategies that are effective, how we are building our businesses in different industries, really, but also, of course, in real estate. That's what we're talking about. So this has been how to generate real estate leads effectively through Facebook groups. And we're going to see you next week. Bye.
Thanks, guys.